My presentation will consist of political institutions and freedom and GDP. I have measured the freedom and GDP statistics for multiple political institutions to determine the freedom and economic level for its citizens. First, I determined the gross domestic product of each institution. I did that by going to the Index of Economic Freedom for 2015. I was able to examine each country that I chose. I was able to look at their gross domestic product and all of the statistics that determine gross domestic product. As you can see, gross domestic product is a monetary value generally calculated annually of all the finished goods and services produced within a particular country's borders within a specific time period. Some countries are democratic and others are non-democratic. There are patterns present to illustrate how decision-making is accomplished directly correlating to the country's GDP. My paper's conclusion tied to the fact that while some countries are democratic and some are not, you are always able to tell by measuring the GDP and analyzing all the factors of the political institution. To begin, there is a diverse amount of political systems throughout the world. Those include democracy, constitutional republics, monarchy, communist, and dictatorship. And general factors such as the election process, accountability of politicians to citizens, and laws are helpful in exemplifying each country's GDP. Each of these factors are directly correlated to the freedom and economic level of each country. My first example is North Korea, and they are a communist dictatorship. North Korea is a closed society. It is difficult to retrieve data and numbers regarding economic trade. However, on the 2015 Index of Economic Freedom, I was able to determine the GDP was $12.38 billion in 2011, and their population is 24.9 million. Also able to examine their property rights and labor freedom and freedom from corruption and unemployment. Each of these countries have a world rank, and North Korea's is 178. It's a very low rank and is mainly because they are a closed society. Next we have the United States of America, which is a democratic republic. GDP is $16.8 trillion and the population is 316.4 million. Property rights is 80 and labor freedom is 98.5, which is a very high score comparatively speaking. Freedom from corruption is 73, which is also a high score, and unemployment, however, is 7.5%. Despite the unemployment, our world rank is 12. Our economic freedom score is a 76.2 out of 100. The United States of America is not a closed society, which has really helped the freedom from corruption and the labor freedom score. Here I've provided a chart between North Korea and the United States. Since communist dictatorship is so different from a democratic republic, I was able to examine the freedom score and present that to you. Another example that I would like to talk about is China. China is communist, but something interesting about China that I exemplified in my paper is that China is a large city, as we all know, it's Hong Kong, and China has agreed not to impose its socialist and communistic regulations onto Hong Kong so they can still maintain their free market economy and be successful. China as a whole has 1.4 billion population, and property rights are 20, freedom from corruption is 40, and labor freedom is 63. Their unemployment is only 4.6%. However, the world rank is 139. The reason China's property rights and their labor freedom score is so high is primarily because Hong Kong is in China. They're able to operate in a free market economy without being dictated by communist ideology, and they are able to be independent of China's communists. Lastly, I would like to examine South Korea. It is a constitutional republic. It is neither democratic republic, but it is neither communist or socialist. They are the People's Republic of South Korea, and they have a GDP of 1.7 trillion US dollars, and the population is 50.2 million. South Korea has a good property rights rating. They are at 75, and their freedom from corruption is 55, which is an okay score. Their labor freedom is 51.1, which is also okay, and their unemployment is down to 3.2, which is a pretty good score. The world rank is 29. That's not a bad score, and their overall economic freedom score is 71.5, which isn't bad. So they are pretty, I guess, neutral on the scale, comparatively speaking. I think it is important to examine each of these countries by understanding their political ideology, and then understanding their political institution, how it has been implemented. It is important to first understand that and then be able to measure the gross domestic product. Once you are able to measure the gross domestic product, you are able to determine how it affects the citizens of each country, how political leaders and the political institutions are responsible, what their responsibilities primarily are, and how it affects the citizens' employment and just overall living experience in the country. And this correlates to freedom, correlates to economics, and they are all correlated. It's very interesting to understand how each work, and that is based upon the political institution.